Okay, we are live. Howdy, all. I am going to attempt to be delicate today. And of course, dance around the language that I would prefer to use. Unfortunately, I do not have other live platforms yet available. Once I do, I'll move off of the censorship platforms. I know we shouldn't be using them at all, but these things take time. So thank you for your tolerance and patience with me. And oh boy, I've missed you guys going, doing the live energy, which I really like. I feel like I can be more candid and be more myself. When I do interviews with others, I'm very focused, and I really want to bring information through and stay centered on what the whole energy is with my interviewer. So now oh man, I can tell. If you could just have a moment in my life, you would be mind blown with what I do in a day. But it's good. The expansion has gone well. Moving out of the house that I have my business in, and having a new space and having land and just all the changes. I mean, this is the time of change, massive change. And I want to really try to address a lot of things today about the thing which we cannot name. And right there, the fact that we have to tread lightly over topics that we should be able to have open conversation about and open debate about should automatically have you questioning what's going on. It surprises me to no avail that people are still going along with this entire, you name it, event. And still complying, and still thinking there's some disease and all of this sort of nonsense. And it's, I vacillate back and forth between working on helping people to wake themselves from it, from the illusions. And, sometimes I throw up my hands in frustration, and I'm sure all of you have been there too, because this is not an easy task. It's a mess is what it is. And there's a lot of confusion and a lot of fear, and we have to navigate this. And I'm trying to figure out, where to focus now. And yes, I saw some questions there about the courses and things. These are all things that I have planned, but steps have to happen first. And so now we're getting there. I'm getting the staff I need to do the roles that I've been doing. And once that's off my plate, I shift focus on, here are protocols. Here's how you take health into your own hands and understand the body. And understand that you are the master of it, and you can heal yourself. You don't need to hand over your power to a false authority. And I know it's again, for those who have fallen for all of this, I do have compassion for you, because I couldn't imagine being in there. I've been so awake to it, and I don't even like those words anymore. We need like so much new languaging to explain, but coming through my life, seeing, having clear eyes to see, if you will, to understand the history of how we got to here, and then seeing the next level of their reset being played out. And they've done this before many times, actually. The rewriting of history happening right under our noses currently. And the massacre that is happening. It's quite what to say. It's quite awe-inspiring. So thank you for being here and listening and being open-minded. And I would just add, we all come with preconceived notions and beliefs and ideologies, and things that we've validated, or we think we've validated to ourselves, that are real. And it takes a lot of bravery, a lot of courage to park those ideas, ideologies, belief systems, and say, okay, I'm going to entertain a different thought or a different idea, and see if that can come into my reality to some degree that helps me. It's navigating the mind, and that's what this all is. This is all about sorting through your stuff, and not allowing your power to be continually taken away. It's really not just about us, of course. It's about our children. It's about the future. There's so much at play and so much happening right now. And whatever your belief systems, I honor them. I know it's challenging to hear truths that go against what you've invested in. And I know how hard that is because of the way our psychology works with cognitive dissonance, which is when you have two separate belief systems, that don't seem to have connections, butt heads inside of your body. It's very uncomfortable. That's why I'm saying the bravery needs to be there, or at least the agreement with yourself to say, I'm going to just put my beliefs aside right now and listen to something different and see what comes up in me. What does rise in me when I hear different ideas? Do I automatically want to shut them down? Do I listen? And in my mind, I'm trying to argue against those things immediately. And what of the evidence that you think you have? What if that is actually fact-based and real? And how much of it is illusion? Even illusion that is spun in your own mind from yourself and those beliefs. So, I say things that are very brave and controversial, and I don't see a problem with that. What I see a problem with is when we don't push the boundaries of our awareness, and we stay stuck in false systems that inevitably will hurt the self and the ones we love. And I don't think anybody really wants that. If you ask genuinely, like, what do you want for yourself and your loved ones in this life? I think people want peace. They want freedom. They want to be loved, and they want to be able to give love, and they want to share and be generous and accept generosity and all of these things. This is who we are in our nature. And to go against our nature is to go against God, because we are created. And so we want to find our alignment and stay in our on our path and live the way we think we should live, which is our best life, and so there's a lot of people who have hurt themselves with the thing, we'll call it the thing, and they're in trouble, a lot of trouble with their health right now. And what I still find incredible is again, I've described a lot of the behaviors as cult-like, because if you understand psychology, the belief has a lot of ritual around it and behaviors that are associated, of course. And there's a trap in there where the belief is like the room, and all of the furnishings are all of your experiences that you've decorated the room with, and you have to somehow fit the new piece of evidence or information or new experience into that room, rather than saying, well, maybe I open a door and look out the room, and maybe that doesn't fit in here, and there's another whole room that I have to go into. And so when people get the thing and they're hurt, instead of saying, well, this room, something's up with this is not really real, Where's the damn fourth wall? uh, then you start to go, well, maybe there's a relationship between me taking this or accepting this thing and my gallbladder, having to be removed 2 weeks later, or me feeling really sick, or me having to go to to a hospital, or having a myocarditis, or having, a seizure, or Bell's palsy, or any of the, the effects we would see from being literally poisoned. But that dissonance inside doesn't want to accept a few things. One, that you've made a mistake. Two, that you've done self-harm. And three, that others have promoted something harmful to you under a different guise, under a guise of goodness and the right thing, because we want to do the right thing. We do. We're not bad people. We want what's right. We want to help others. We want people to be healthy and well and have all the things they need. That's where it comes from. I don't think these illusions would be able to even take hold if people were ruthless in, you know what I'm saying, in their morals. I think a lot of these people who are obedient, they're good people, and that's the shame. That's the hardest thing to watch. Are good people who are, God-fearing people who love life, who love others, who want to help, being manipulated and used for exactly the opposite, and then having to tell them, having to break the news to them that they're part of the opposite of what they want, and that's very difficult. And I again, like I said, I have compassion. Okay, I get angry. Trust me, I've had my rants, and I've said what I've had to say because I have emotions. I'm of mankind. I don't like to use the word human because that's a color of man, and that actually in Black's Law Dictionary means beast. And we are not beasts. We are divine creations, and of mankind, of that word. So that's what I prefer to use, to be not following in the aberrations of who we are. We are not color of, we are that. And there's a lot of information. There's a lot of levels in the information of where people enter. And I know that also can be confusing. And through all of it, I'm praying that people will learn the gift inside of themselves of discernment, how to discern, how to correct the inner barometer, to the inner compass, to know when something is a lie and versus a truth, or when something is a trickery, or something is being used to manipulate them with, or narcissistic tendencies, like I've talked about before. It's a good example, right? And that is hand in hand with occult ideology and those programmings, and that's important because you can't unravel this well if you don't understand how we've been used, and for a long time. And that's, I think, the hardest is unraveling not just your life, but generations before you being pulled into a direction without your real consent, not overt consent, just tacit or silent consent, and to be manipulated with your emotions. So fear being obviously used, especially in this experience, to get you to strong arm you into doing something that somebody else wants you to do. So we have much work to do, but I don't want to give up on people at all who have done it, who maybe regret, or maybe they don't even notice because this is still an experiment, and experiments have placebo groups. And I know many who have had it, they're fine, no experiences at all to the negative. And I would guarantee that if they could trace their codes, they would see that they're in the control group. So, and also if you wanted to, reduce a population, right, then through them wanting the death, then you would definitely not have it all across the board where you get it, you die, you get it, you die. It would have to be a little bit more covert than that. So there's so much information. And where I was going with the echelons is that, so you'll come into someone talking about it or teaching about it, and they might come from the germ theory model and explain things like immune systems and viruses and whatever, and that you have your own immune system and protections against invaders and so forth. And then maybe that's where you needed to start. Maybe you need to start with some self-empowerment on nutrition. Or learn about minerals in the body and what's necessary. And that's your opening. But you're not meant to stay there. You're meant to, move forward into the next layer of knowledge when your mind can deal with it, can go, okay, that was one part and I got truths out of that. But now something's not sitting right with that story. I'm going to move to the next level and I'm going to go through the next door. And realize that that's actually not even true. We don't even have that immune system, that was a terminology that was invented and coined based on the idea of genetics as well, which is another whole opening, again, coming from germ theory paradigm. And when you now start to question an entire paradigm, there's a lot of pieces that have to be rectified, and it doesn't happen overnight. There's study involved. There's an unearthing of roots that have dug inside of you, of beliefs that have to be sorted out, and that can take time. And that's been the hardest part about all this, is this, it's happening so quickly. So many people don't have the time, or they're under now economic strain and stress and other pressures, and that's not their priority because they put you into a survival mode, and you're just trying to get food on the table and get gas in the car and do what you're doing, and you won't look there because that's not priority for you. And so that's also very difficult to be able to go through that. So yes, it's a relearning. And so why I was saying that is because, there's a lot of talk about controlled opposition and all of this stuff. And of course, when you're trying to contain a lie so massive and so long held, you're going to, try to control the opposition and steer at least the people who are trying to figure it out astray. And we see that everywhere. But like I said, reframe it and use it as an opportunity to be able to practice your discernment, and then move on from that and go to the next level. And if you always are continually seeking, you will find the answers, because this is how this place is designed. It's designed for you to actually succeed. It's meant for you to succeed. And if you help your mind go there, then you'll continue to move forward and get the truth and the information that you need, and surrender yourself to that unfoldment. And I see it in my own life all the time, and I see it in other people too. So we can argue about all kinds of things, and I think it comes down to fundamentals of ensuring your safety and security in your life, so that you have that baseline met of your needs. And that might be leaving a job, actually, and going out on your own and starting your own small business, or offering a skill set. I see a lot of teachers, for example, leaving the industry, and they're starting small pods, groups of inviting, homeschooled children, which I'm in a need for that too. And there's been, because I will not, my principles, I will not feed it into it. So I will not send my child into a school that would make her CO2 levels under a mask go up to dangerous levels all day. I won't hurt my child. I will not do that in the name of whatever I think the value I think I'm getting out of a school system that's hell-bent on truly indoctrinating our children into all of these false beliefs. Which is harder on a parent, especially if you have to go to work. What are you going to do with your child? You get into problems. And so this is why we have to find our community and people who are doing things differently than we have been doing. Same thing with nurses and doctors who are being pushed out of their industries and their careers. They're starting new ideas and different ways of helping others and different ways of supporting people. And it's happening. So being brave in that, I have a little fly here, being strong enough to say, I'm going to change what I'm doing. This isn't working for me. This is suffering, and I will not suffer. I will grow, and I will do what my heart says to do. And so we are gonna talk about what to do now. I always feel you can heal from anything. I do. I've seen the most miraculous things, in my career. And for those who maybe don't know my work, I do have a lot of training and background. My Bachelor of Science, for example, was a 4-year degree, and I learned a lot of chemistry. I learned all the hard sciences, of course, and but it was focused on genetics and biotech and how the manipulation of life has been ongoing, and trying to somehow overcome nature, which is ridiculous. But it taught me a lot. I learned a lot about, obviously, the chemistry and the alchemy itself. But okay, little fly, it's time for you to run along now. I know you want this, but okay. Anyway, so there's that, knowledge that I've brought forward, but I saw industry and I saw how universities have been used not to have higher learning, but to go in toward industry and corporate interests and agendas and this sort of thing. And then I got through that, and I did some traveling. I traveled through Central America, and I saw other ways of living. And then I went to naturopathic college. So that's a medical degree. It's a doctorate. That's 4 years. And then after I finished that, I, started to really help people with their health. And this is going on 14 years now. And so what I'm saying is I've seen a lot of miracles. I mean, what you would call miracles, but it's really just applying sound principles and simplifying where people are at and getting them to do the work that's required for the self-healing. And it doesn't come really ultimately from anybody else but yourself. So those who have done it and are either regretting or sick, there are a lot of things that you need to understand about your body and ways in which you can apply a detoxification principles to rectify as much as you possibly can. The issues with this particular set of the thing is the gene altering part. That's the tricky part. And we don't really know, because we haven't been told what exactly is going on at the encoding level. One thing that I've been able to deduce by, reading studies and listening to what they've been trying to do with the AI sort of transhumanism direction, the Agenda 21, aka Agenda 2030. If you don't know what that is, it's part and parcel of all of this, or Davos and the Great Reset, and understanding that there's a lot going on with this event. That's part of the homework that people are going to have to do, I think, to understand a little bit more about who is involved and what the bigger picture is, which is, again, hard work to do, but it'll help. It'll help you steer away from the pirates and the ones who are thinking they're doing good, but they're actually pushing the cult-based agenda. And that self-work it can take a long time. And so one of the things, though, that I notice is that I sense if you were trying to change mankind into something else that was able to hold other tech, synthetic tech, then you would try to program the body to accept the tech as self. Okay, so part of this is injecting non-self into the body and trying to tell the body it's okay. It's not you, but we're going to pretend it's you. And so keep it, so hold it. And that affects the pathways in the body that would naturally get rid of anything that is not self. Okay. Primarily the liver pathways and the respiratory pathways or other detox elimination routes like the skin. And the blood is fundamental in that, of course, as carrying materials and signals, hormone signals, and other vital information to and fro to make sure the organism is in homeostasis. So what I think can happen to these individuals is they cannot detox naturally. So our bodies naturally are always breaking down tissues. Tissue turnover is always happening, and metabolic wastes happen. And also we have other inputs. There's food, air, water, etc., stresses, and other chemicals that get on our bodies, even through simple things like laundry and cleaning products and so forth. The body has to deal with all that load and make sure that things are clean and balanced. And so when that gets backed up in the system, then it accumulates. It can be tucked away. The body is very intelligent, innately intelligent. And rather than deposit it in structures that are vital, it will shove it away into fat cells or joints, even bone, whatever it can do to keep it away from vital organs. And then people will get symptoms like arthritis and have brain fog and have pain syndromes and all kinds of things that show you that there's actually a metabolic load that has not been eliminated. Now add that to a genetic confusion, saying, this isn't you, don't get rid of this. And the body is now in a conundrum, how to actually detox. So I think a lot of these individuals will not have proper routes of elimination any longer. They will hold on to things that should not be held in the body. And that can lead to long-term disease states like cancers, heart disease, other types of acidosis states. And it's not something that will occur overnight. This could be years in the making. And so I think those who have the thing will have to really master how to be on top of their detox regime to stay well, despite whatever the genetic damage is. And then there's more challenges, of course, if those individuals would like to procreate. There was a one, just as one example of many, one close to home here, a friend was speaking with a younger girl who had the things, who is deeply regretting such actions, and because now she has been told that she will be infertile and she will not be able to carry children due to the damage to her uterus that incurred after her second injection. So she's now, her whole life has been altered, and she's not sure what's going to happen going forward. And as well, she's had heart issues on top of it. So, that's just one small story. And I've heard so many because people send me these stories all the time and tell me these things. And then there's statistics as well, if you'd like to go and look up the VAERS reporting or the yellow card reporting or wherever reporting, injury reporting you have in your country, which is a corporation, by the way. You can watch some of my other law. If you would like to get into knowing about law, I have other videos on that topic as well. Okay, so first things first, understand that your liver is primary in removing the things that are unwanted. And how it works is the kidneys first will filter out excess from the body. And that because everything must be in homeostasis is the state of balance, metabolic balance. And hormone signals are communication tools. They're proteins. And that actually act in an enzymatic capability, or so they can also break down tissue or allow for the body to cause an inflammatory response and get rid of something unwanted. So that is an excess filter. Once the excess filter is gone through from the blood, then it will go into the liver system, and the liver will remove the unwanted and put it through the mainly the stool, but it also can, for gases and things, can then send it onward into a lung removal, or governing the skin. If you understand Chinese medicine, of which I've studied deeply, and I love the ancient systems of Chinese medicine and Indian or Ayurvedic medicine, and they relate all of the systems together and how they express, and through the skin. And so the liver governs the skin and also expresses through the eyes. So if you have eye issues, you must also consider liver health. The skin being, where blemishes and anything will get pushed out that is not the best for either the liver is backed up and congested and can't deal with it, or the lung, it's inappropriate for the lung to be able to dismantle and remove that waste, then it will be pushed out through the skin. It must leave the body. Now, what if the mechanism is not working and it's accumulating? Like I said, you have to then go after it yourself and trigger the body or encourage the body to remove it. So this is work. A lot of people have really given themselves a lot of extra work to do. So people will say things like, I got it and it was bad, whatever. But this is where you have to understand the fraud of the germ theory. You didn't get it because there is no it. There is nothing other than the usual that we've gone through for ages when people are toxic and they must remove waste. And if your body is congested and can't do it, you will produce symptoms. The body will mount other effects in it as strong as needs to be to get it out. Mucus is used to carry out wastes. The sinuses will accumulate the wastes and remove it. So through the nasal passages, coughing, like I was saying, through the respiratory system. And those are your cold and flu symptoms. And that's a body using a method of removal, nothing else. There's nothing being caught. You didn't pick it up. This is why you must understand the fraud of the germ theory. And tomorrow I'm going to be live with Carmen Hunter, and we're going to go through some of the history of the viral fraud and how it came about and how it got established as a cult-like belief system, and pushed into common thought and into every industry. So it's not easy to dismantle it, and that's why I was saying earlier, if you need to believe that in contagion and believe in all that, and that's where you need to be, fine. But you got to move on from that, because you can't get through to the next level of your knowledge base if you don't tackle this problem, because they'll just make up another fake idea that you've caught and tell you they have the cure for it, and you'll just keep falling for the same scandal. So the most important thing to understand is you don't catch anything. Nothing is floating through the air waiting to attack you, and you didn't get it because there is no it. That's the yearly buildup of toxins will present with an admixture of symptoms. And it will change from person to person. It will change from season to season. It will change from exposure to exposure. So last year's expressions might look more like a head cold, as they say, with pressure behind the eyes and, a lot of sinus congestion. The next year could be more respiratory heavy. Whatever the toxin is more likely to go through the alveoli and the areas of the chest, trying to escape. Another will be very fever heavy, because the proteins need to be broken down and there's more of a white cell activity. And so you'll see a different admixture of the same kinds of symptoms, which will always be the same over and over again: congestion, fever, heaviness, fatigue, maybe a headache, maybe even nerve pain, if the inflammation is affecting the nervous system. And so we get caught up in labels and categories of things, but it's all the same. So again, when you come into truth, it becomes simpler and simpler. Your body has poisons. The poisons must be removed one way or another. There's different kinds of poisons that will have different, more efficacious routes of elimination. And those are your symptoms. That's your symptom picture. And the symptoms are the body healing. So the symptoms of whatever's happening is your healing. You are expressing, which means you are healing. And it's not something you caught and now you're suddenly sick. You were already heading toward the symptoms, and the body was trying to mount the nutrition and whatever it needed to do it without symptoms. So if you are active in your cleansing practices and you also are aware of not poisoning yourself, you would never ever express as a cold or a flu again in your life. You could be around a whole room full of snot-nosed anybodies who were expressing, and you would come out with nothing. You would never catch a thing. So, and we know this. This is also easily done with proper science, which we have done those studies. The Germans did the studies way back in the Spanish flu hoax as well. They tried to do contagion studies and it did not work. You could not take mucus off of someone who is expressing and put it into another person and have them get those symptoms of that disease. So what we have is a magic show going on. And this is the awakening that the magic show has been going on for generations and generations. And this is the unveiling. So we're seeing it. And so it's uncomfortable because it's a lifetime of going back and re-correcting mistakes and understanding that you've been punked, and it's hard to swallow. It's hard to take, especially for people who are very rigid in their beliefs and they know what they know and that's it, and that's ego. So we have to transcend that lower ego and the shadow, and we have to come into consciousness and as my spiritual teacher would say, pour the waters of consciousness, over everything. And find the kernels of truth and let that lead you, let that thread lead you to the next truth, and build your foundation solid, build it properly. For those, someone's asking about Canadian orders. Again, we have a cult that's running the show, that parades itself as organizations that care about your health. That promote the lies, that have big budgets. And in Canada, they will not support what I do, which is helping people have access to natural remedies that work, like DMSO, for example. So I've had to take my business as a PMA, a private membership association, specifically in Canada. So I'm not open to the public. I'm not here to serve public, which again is a law term, public versus private. So a private individual, man versus man, saying, I would like this from you. And I will say, well, I will procure that for you, especially being a practitioner, trained practitioner. I can do that as a compounding exception. And so those in Canada just need to reach out to my staff through an email to set up the process of becoming a private member and accessing things that way. So that's how I have it run in Canada. And doing so with integrity, of course, because if you're doing anything in life, you must stand by what you're doing, and you must make sure you're doing proper principles. You're doing things safely and clean techniques and all of this sort of thing. And so my background helped me a lot in that. Obviously, when you go to the chemistry bench, you need to be clean in your thing, all that you do. And I also worked for in vivisection in laboratories. And when I was in containment units, I had to become very aware of fomite transfer, where basically, you could pick up something and then transfer it to something else, which I watch out in the world where they're masking and doing, thinking they're protecting themselves from something, but then, they'll hand me their pen and I'll sign the thing, and then they'll take the pen back and then they'll touch their mask. I mean, they just contaminated their mask. They would have to throw that out and start another mask. But there's none of that behavior going on at all. So we know that this is they're just doing it. They don't know why. And as someone who's trained in making sure you don't cross-contaminate anything, it's laughable on one level, but it's also horrifying to think that people think they're protecting themselves when they're doing the exact opposite. So understand that if you want to heal yourself, there's a lot of unlearning that comes with it, and then relearning or self-teaching, whether you're an autodidact. I'm an autodidact. I can teach myself anything. I taught myself how to crochet by watching YouTube videos. I taught myself how to cook by watching, cooking shows. I know how to put things together, and I understand alchemy from my chemistry background. So I know how a positive and a negative will go together, for example, and how the tastes work, together. And once you get foundational principles, you can ride on the foundation, and you can create from there. But if you're up in the froth, it looks very difficult. It looks hard to do. And so yes, the cult of the medics has been a long cult, and it actually is sorcery. It goes back to actually religion, and the belief of that people who were ill deserved it, and that they were demonically possessed. And actually, that's the history of the germ theory. The germ theory is its foundational roots is based on that you deserved it, that there's something wrong with you, therefore God has shunned you, and you have taken on a demon. And that's literally the base of the germ theory, comes from superstition. And we're living superstition still today. And people don't realize it. Just because you've sophisticated your superstitions by making it look like it's professional, or look like there's all this money behind it and fancy gadgets, doesn't make it any less than what it is, which is scientism and sorcery, and the cult of the medics. Yes. So we'll get into some of the meat and potatoes now of how we're going to help those of our loved ones who are now poisoned, severely poisoned. It's a call. So how they spin it is they have, because of free will. You have free will, and they have to make you want it. That's why the campaigns are so heavy. That's why the propaganda is so deep, and that's why they've had to pimp out all of their, celebrities and people with any influence to tell you what to do. The amount of propaganda, I've never seen so much in all of my life. It is, wow. It is, again, that people can't see how laden it is and how desperate the attempt is to make you do it, how they strong arm you, and how they manipulate people by threatening their bread and butter to do it should be a red flag. That should be a huge red flag. The second I feel like someone is trying too hard to make me do something, I'm suspicious immediately. I don't understand why people don't have that anymore, other than perhaps the television movie programming that continually pushes fear, and probably just overloads the limbic system to such a point where you would just be in fear 24/7. So you just shut down certain aspects of your barometer, of your compass, inner compass, to see when something is not right, and just blind trust in it, because they've done a good job of confusing. So I remember 10 years ago, beyond that, you'd get a study and you'd read a newspaper and they'd say, oh, coffee's really good for you, and here's all the good things it does. Or, so, have your coffee, or wine, red wine, here are the benefits. And then you'll get another study that says, well, it's really bad for you. Alcohol is a class 1 carcinogen. So you're actually poisoning your liver, you're hurting yourself. Coffee is bad for you. It shuts off blood flow to the brain, and this sort of stuff. So what ends up happening is people don't know what to believe, right? So they'd rather just default to, I will just listen to what my doctor says, because who am I? I don't have a degree, or I don't have that knowledge. So I just have to have blind trust. And that's why it's like a scientism. It's a religious cult, because it's just faith-based. It's just belief-based. It's not fact, evidence, logic. None of that is there. And so that's why, a lot of people have lost themselves in this, and they'll just do what they're told, because again, like, who are they to say? They don't know, right? But now knowledge is power, right? And so the more you're armed with it, the more you realize when you're being taken advantage of, right? If you know about your car and you go to a car mechanic and they say, oh, geez, that knocking sound you heard, yeah, it's really bad. You need a new transmission, and here's all the stuff you need. It's going to cost you a lot, but I can do it for you. If you don't know anything about your car, be like, oh my gosh, okay, wow, that's terrible, but okay, I guess I have to do it. This has been going on for ages. We know this is what happens. But if you know about your car and oh crap, it's run out of oil, or the oil needs a change, and that's all it was, then you go, yeah, buddy, I smell a scam on you. No thanks. I'll take my business elsewhere. It's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. So first step, you didn't get the thing because there's no thing. Okay. There's never been it has not been isolated. All right. Once I edit my video with Christine Massey, that will come out, and it will help you to understand that the Freedom of Information requests, there's over 115 of them now that have been returned from over 20 countries, that all of the agencies by which we are entrusting things, not me, but most people, they cannot prove there is the virus. There's no evidence, proof, isolation, purification of said thing. So you didn't get a thing because there's no thing. Okay. And that's a simple way to just start. You can go to fluoridefreepeel.org, I think, or .ca. Okay. And you can read them all. They're all categorized. She's done a wonderful job of organizing it for you. There's no science proving the thing exists. And then you have another problem. So if you want to help unravel your mind around it, is the testing. The testing is a problem, which we've been yelling from the rooftops since the beginning. But the PCR test is not just unreliable. It's a complete fraud. It is 100% fraudulent test, and you can program the PCR to find whatever you want. You can cycle up or cycle down to prove to make a false positive, or make a false negative, or make just a negative. You can play with your test results very, very easily. It's a very easy way to manipulate and use people and say, oh, you've tested positive, so therefore you have it. And people just go with it. They just say, oh, I got it then, right? The other scam around that is then you have healthy people without expression getting tested positive for such a thing, which is, again, one of the aspects that surprised me the most, that people fell for asymptomatic carrier, that story, that amazes me. Obviously, the dumbing down, not to insult, but just the knowledge level going so low that people actually would believe that that's real. That is not real. You could, even if contagion was real, let's just pretend for a second, even if that was real. Okay. And I know that's hard for people, and there's other explanations for why you would be around someone and get a feeling off of them. But I've talked about this before in other videos if you want to go and learn about it. But what amazes me is that a perfectly healthy individual walking around now is somehow hurting other people, and people have believed that. That to me was a real shocking revelation, that to say, wow, the programming and the propaganda has worked very much so on these individuals' minds, that they really don't have any knowledge of how the body works, because that is impossible. It just doesn't exist. I'm sorry. So that is also mind-blowing to me, especially as someone medically trained and experienced as I am. It just doesn't work like that. And then what you can do next is start to take some measures in your life where you are identifying areas where you're hurting yourself. Do you make excuses for some of your bad behaviors? You know, you can get away with about 30% of your lifestyle not being clean. Your body, under normal circumstances, your body will deal with a certain amount of exogenous or external poisons and keep on top of that without producing symptoms. If your metabolic system and detox systems are ample or working well, and your nutrition is good, then you can have your glass of wine occasionally, or people who drink coffee or whatever. You can get away with a certain percentage of bad foods or bad choices, but beyond 30%, now you're starting to accumulate a lot of wastes, and eventually you will have a health event of some sort, depending on your milieu or your specific blueprint of your body and how you present with illness, or how your body chooses to remove wastes and so forth, because we're all different. So looking at where you're poisoning yourself and stopping the flow of poisons into your life, that's very important, because you want to, when you're trying to heal from anything, you need to identify those areas, and that's something that you can pretty much usually stop. Maybe you're under a big cell tower and you can't control that, but there's other things you can do, to protect yourself from radiation exposure. For one, DMSO. I mean, DMSO, in my book, I discuss the prevention of radiation damage and DNA damage by radiation by using it prophylactically, meaning that you're primed with DMSO, you're using it on a regular basis. It will prevent fractionated DNA nuclei from being created by radiation exposure, any type. And that's very profound. And a lot of people will be like, what's DMSO? I never heard of it. This has been around since, the late 1800s is really when they identified it, but, since the 50s. But yet people haven't heard of it. And again, there's so many red flags that need to come up for you and go, well, why wouldn't my government support something like that? Why wouldn't industry talk about that? Why wouldn't my doctor even know what it is? When it has some really fundamental and foundational health supporting principles and chemistry. So that's one thing you could do, for example, if you were in that situation. Okay. Then once you've identified that, you start to change your behaviors. So, if you're eating a pesticide-laden food, and you maybe that food is one you can soak with borax and baking soda and vinegar and these sorts of, and clean it before you eat it. That's one method to, maybe there's still a little bit of trace, but you're getting rid of most of it. So that's one action you could take. If you couldn't afford, say, an organic option, and even that, we're questioning if the organics are really pure or not, especially when we have other chemicals that can come into your food supply. Same thing with water. What type of water are you drinking? And is it fluoridated? Well, that's got to stop. And again, Christine Massey has, if you go to Fluoride Free Peel, you will see all the studies and interestingly enough, that's why she knew how to do the Freedom of Information request, is because she was doing that for fluoride. She wanted the evidence that fluoride was good, and what was the government's rationale for medicating entire populations with a said chemical. you have to have some pretty strong evidence to say that that's worth it, that overriding your personal choice or your health freedom was worth it to just, across the board kind of poison everybody, because it is a neurotoxin. But guess what? Same thing there. No evidence, no justification, and nothing that came back that said, oh, here's why we did it. And that sort of got her waking up to, what are these agencies really about? Because if they're about our health, then they should have mountains and mountains and mountains of evidence as to why we do it, and why it's so awesome and good, and all of the long-term studies and so forth. And there was like one piece of paper that comes back saying, yeah, we just, because we were told, or because we thought this or whatever. So same story. I think the part of the bigger awakening is understanding that these agencies, maybe even if they came out originally with good intentions, that's long gone. That's long been co-opted, and that doesn't exist. And that's also takes bravery to understand you're kind of on your own. You're on your own with your health and with the knowledge, and so that can be scary, and then I get it. But once you get past that, then it's empowering. Then you're like, no, I've got this. I have options. Options are good. Options mean I'm a free being, and I can make choices. And I might make the wrong choice, and I have to forgive myself if I made the wrong one. And that's the same thing with people who've had the shots. They've made a mistake, and they have to forgive themselves, and they have to now move on and try their best and improve the situation. So that step one is really identifying your lifestyle factors that are at play, that are doing self-harm, and trying to eliminate, remove, reduce whatever capacity you can. Now, while you're doing that, and I understand this, and this is why I have so many supplements available, and because a few reasons. One, people are trained to just pop a pill. That's the mindset. Take a pill for what you have. Not only that, people have a hard time with food and changing their food regime and understanding what contains which nutrition, and finding the food that actually does have the nutrition in it, being that our soils are so depleted, depending on where you live and all of these other factors. It can take time to improve those lifestyle factors. So in the meanwhile, you can beef up your nutritional status and get ahead of things while you work on the food and while you figure out how to stop poisoning yourself. One of the bigger ways of helping your body to repair cells and tissues quicker, and things, nutrition, biochemistry that has multiple actions in many organ systems. This is what I like to focus on. So it's called them the heavy hitters. So they do all kinds of actions in the body, and they're fundamental to your life. Now, all of the vitamins, minerals that are essential are, of course, vital to your life, but some you will store, and some you will make, and some you will get from your food, that you, even if the food is subpar. And now finding what it is that you're low in, or you're trying to upregulate an action specifically, like, okay, you know what? I did the thing. Ooh, I've had heart issues. I am not sleeping now, or I'm constantly having respiratory challenges or whatever. Now you want to work on a system and try to rehabilitate the system. So there'll be different herbs, vitamins, nutrients, so that will upregulate the processes of healing in the body. And then that knowledge of that particular bionutrient is what you'll focus on and work with. And that will change. You will work with something for a while, and then you will change it to something else and work on a different system. And that's why ultimately having a practitioner who knows this is helpful. But the practitioner is meant to be a guide and to help you, supply you with the resources. And you're meant to then take it and run with it and understand the foundational principles, because, doctor is teacher. And so the doctor should be teaching you these things so that now you can go and do it on your own, and you don't need them. You don't need to continually run to them for every sniffle or every ache, right? Now the foundation. So this is why, again, we have charlatans running the show, because they're not teaching any of it. In fact, when you even ask to be taught, or you bring studies, or you bring information, or say, what do you think about ginkgo biloba, doc? Or what do you think about DMSO? Amanda wrote a really great book on it. they'll be, oh, I don't know anything about that, or oh, that sounds dangerous. You'll just get an ego instead of cooperation. And that's because anytime you present something else and what the trained what are they, lemming, because they're not teachers, they're just told what to do. They don't have the alternative. They're not even allowed to know it. If they were, they wouldn't be in the industry. They'd be removed from the industry. So you gotta understand how this has all come over time, where you don't have. Now there are good practitioners out there. I'm not trashing everything. I'm just saying, if you have to go for a surgery because you had an accident, but that doctor should be applying natural principles first, and then seeing what doesn't recover and repair, and then offering surgery or other interventions, but not first. That should never be the first approach in your body. Cutting something out or removing organs, that's not your first go. And that's really a symptom of a need in the body, and then you provide the need, and the body picks it up from there. But that's not what the industry is based on. In fact, quite the opposite. Having tests that are biased, that will tell you something about your body that's not even true, and that will mind control the victim to do their treatments. And then we see this all the time, especially in the cancer industry. Oh my goodness. So, understanding that is really important. And so, for example, at this point, if vitamin C needs to be in your cabinet, okay, I mean, if you want to increase tissue recovery and repair, you're going to need higher levels of vitamin C. And I don't just mean ascorbic acid, because a vitamin C is an ascorbate with I like buffered. I prefer the buffered because of the acidity, and especially I like to do high doses, but it is part, you need the antioxidant aspect of the vitamin C. So it's a whole component. There's multiple components in the vitamin C. So what I would say is, if you've done the thing, you need to clean the blood. One of the main effects of the thing is blood clotting, slow or fast blood clotting, blood disorders, blood coagulation issues. A lot of autopsies are showing micropetechiae, or microclotting, in a lot of the vessels, and particularly focused on the head and neck area. And so we have to clean the blood up. The blood's been damaged. So vitamin C is part of that. I would start slow, and always test everything. Skin lotion to a supplement. You don't know your responses and how toxic you might be. I know a lot of people, they're so liver toxic that anything they take, they aggravate. They automatically go through a detox reaction, or a healing crisis, as it's called, and it's very uncomfortable. And sometimes you can't get around the healing crisis, and so you need to proceed with caution and again understand how the organs are going to try to progress and heal, so that you don't have complications. But vitamin C, you start with a buffered format. I have plenty on my website, yumnaturals.store. That's where I supply all my stuff, and I try to get in as much as I can that works well, that I've tested out, that people have reported back, at professional companies, and the buffered format. So starting with, you can just take 1,000 milligrams, just a tiny dose. How you doing? Okay, good. No negative repercussion, meaning I'm not putting myself into a healing crisis by taking 1,000. I would hope not. That would be very, very alarming. And then slowly work up. So then you can add another 1,000 in the day and work up to ultimately 5 grams twice a day, or at least going to your bowel tolerance level, so that if you start to get a looser bowel, then your blood is saturated and it's happy, and you can maintain at that level. You can hold at whatever that level is. So if it's 5 grams, 6 grams, 7 grams, whatever it is, your needs will change depending on your challenges in the moment. I know people who are, doing holistic cancer treatments, and they go very, very high, 20 grams, 25 grams, these sorts of things, or even do IV levels of vitamin C for treatment, which again, if there was such a strange disease going around, that should be the first thing. IV vitamin C, second you're in the hospital, that's where you begin there. That's where you start. But that's not, you know why. I mean, again, why wouldn't they do something so simple and easy and not expensive and with great results and great studies and all kinds of evidence that it helps for respiratory illnesses, for any kind of cold and flu symptom. Where I remember there was a story that came out of Wuhan during the beginning of the hoax, excuse me, and they were talking about it. They were like, oh, good. You know, we have the cure. It's the IV vitamin C. That's working. If people are coming out of hospital, like overnight, basically. Oh, where did that story go? Buried. Are we doing? No, we're not doing it. It's because they have something else for you. That's why. So where are all the other options for you? There's no option. It's just this and your passport, right? Who needs a passport? Yeah. Who needs to be excluded from events? Segregation. A segregation when we have vitamin C? Yeah. This is where your mind needs to start to click, starts to go, this is weird. Why would you need a passport? Why would you need to be landlocked? Why would you not be able to travel? Why? When we have vitamin C as literally the overnight cure for these respiratory, distresses. Interesting. DMSO, again, another example, right? Stops heart attacks and strokes. I mean, come on. All right. Why is that not in the emerge room? Why is that not like the first action? Why is that not, okay, hey, instead of the nitro, guys, here's a little vial of DMSO. You start getting a heart event. Do that, little bit of cayenne pepper. You'll come to the hospital, but that'll settle you down. Then we'll see what's going on. None of that. Right there. Red flag. Start to see them. Okay. Start to walk away. That's not good. That's not pure. That's not real. We have the simple truths there, but they're not using them. Everything's complicated, right? I'm just looking at comments here for a second. So, okay. So the death cult. Yes, it's a death cult. That's what it is. And we're in the life not cult. Leave me the hell alone. I'm a free being and I can make decisions for myself because I'm an adult and I do research. And also I have a brain and I know how to think and I know how to deduce and I know how to see patterns. I have pattern recognition and I know when someone's lying and I know when someone's just trying to make a buck. And I know when the mechanic is lying to me about my car, So, okay. So the next, so vitamin C, get that, have that. For come on. Are you not on any of these social media? Vitamin C. What do you do when you're sick? Vitamin C. Eat apples, eat oranges, get your vitamin C levels up. It's so easy. It's overlooked, I guess. That's the first thing. Eat an apple a day, keeps the doctor away. You know why the apples work, by the way? It's the pectin. So eat an apple a day. Even if you just do that, I'd be very happy to hear it. I'd be very happy if you ate one organic or very cleaned off, cleaned properly apple a day. Start. Get your pectin, get your vitamin C. Okay. That's just one little act you can do. Then the most important mineral that I talk about all the time is magnesium. We have a crisis. You want to call a crisis? You want to call a pan? That deficiency is alarming. It's just not put in our soils. We use a lot. We have to cycle through a lot of this mineral to detox through the liver in order for the liver to function properly. I did a video on liver detoxification. You can find it on yummy.doctor, DOCTOR. That is the domain. So you just write yummy.doctor. That's all you need to write. Go into my video section and search for liver, and you will see a video I talk about, or I go through the nerdy science, the biochemistry of why magnesium is fundamental, is part of the rate limiting step. If you know chemistry, there's a chemical reaction, and then there is a speeding up. There are things that make the reaction go faster. Those are called catalysts, and magnesium is the catalyst for those reactions. And if you are deficient in magnesium, you are not a fast detoxer on any level. You're sluggish. You'll have liver congestion, backlog. When you have backlog, you can have things like gastrointestinal problems, you can have constipation, you can have menstrual issues, you can have all kinds of blood disorders and blood issues, because the wastes are now going to go back into your bloodstream because the liver is unable to eliminate them properly, so they get recirculated. You name it, right down to arthritis. Magnesium is key. You must use it, and not just orally. You can take some orally. I have a good magnesium bisglycinate. I have also a good combo mag that has all kinds of the there's different types of magnesium compounds, right? And it has a nice blend that you can take to help with sleep. I take an oral one before bed, and then topical is the way to go with magnesium, as I've said many times. Through the skin is the way to absorb it. It is transdermal, and you will get it into your bloodstream through the skin. So I make a magnesium spray. I make a magnesium spray with DMSO, which is even more beneficial because now you're getting the DMSO benefits, and also you're getting an easier delivery since DMSO is also completely transdermal and is a carrier. So magnesium is getting another helping hand to get into the body quicker. And a lot of people don't like magnesium oil or magnesium sprays because they can create a little bit of itch on the skin. And interestingly enough, DMSO used on skin can also cause a little bit of that discomfort. But together, they're very nice friends and they help each other. And so the transdermal nature is easier. Therefore, there's less itching. And itching is a side effect of the transdermal aspect, which means the skin itself is moved aside as the molecules go in, and that can produce a little bit of redness or itching, that sort of thing, which is not harmful. It just is a symptom of the work that's being done. And so with the DMSO, it's almost non-existent. There's almost no itch at all, which is lovely. So that's 7 to 10 sprays of magnesium oil on the skin twice a day. And if you're using the DMSO, you can get away with a little bit less. You could do about 5 sprays twice a day, or as needed, and you might need more. And so if you have pain, you can put it on an area of pain. And I have some people who are having nerve pain because of injuries, spinal injuries, and they're getting out of spasm states using it. So it can help with all sorts of bone health, nerve health, muscle repair, so tissue repair, brain, eyes. Magnesium is ubiquitous in the body. That's why I was saying I promote the things that have all of these actions on the body. So you're getting more than just, oh, that thing, I'm doing that action. You're doing the foundational or fundamental biomolecular actions that are going to upregulate your system so that they are working harmoniously and getting the job done and getting the job done more efficiently. So vitamin C, magnesium, those are 2 simple things that you can start one by one bringing into your daily routine, and upregulate, helping your body to detox. Now, there again, it comes down to the liver. Okay, the majority of this is coming down to the blood in the liver. Okay, and the liver is a producer of something called glutathione. So what it does is it makes this antioxidant, and it's basically like a sponge for wastes, and it will find the wastes and it will grab them like a sponge, and it will take them to the liver system, and it will go through this P450, and there's all these different, the 7 routes of elimination, like I discussed in that video, and it will try to figure out what's the best way to break it down. Is it a water soluble? Is it a fat soluble? What solvents do we need involved here? What salts do we need involved here to break it down into its components and safely remove it from the body? And so you want that liver to be working very nicely and well for you. And it's like your receptionist in a huge corporation, for example. It has to know where to direct everything. It filters the blood every 3 to 4 minutes. The entire blood volume is filtered. Blood needs to be maintained for health, optimal health. The blood has to be clean, and it has to keep cycling that through. Now imagine you have like racing heart and you have fever and stuff. What's happening there? Well, it's increasing the rate that it's going through the liver. It's like, wash quicker, move this out faster, right? This is one of the reasons why you'll get, respiratory, faster breathing, the heart beating fast, it's moving the blood because it's got to get it out. It's got to somehow. Those are, again, symptoms of the body trying to work, trying to help you, trying to get rid of these poisons out of the body. So help it do what it's doing. Don't go against it. This is what the warlocks do. They say you have a symptom and symptom's bad. Symptom's bad means you're sick. You don't want to be sick, do you? Well, so bad. Well, here's a pill or here's a injection that will shut that down. It will shut it down. It will say, don't do that. Oh, you wanted to heal and you want to get rid of that poison? Nah, don't do that. Please don't do that. And so the symptoms will stop because the symptoms of the body trying to heal. And then the person goes, oh, you're a miracle worker. I feel awesome now. I don't have these annoying symptoms. My body doesn't now want to sleep and rest and get rid of all this stuff and heal and blah, blah. I can go about my merry day, right? So it's an illusion though, because you've just stopped a mechanism. That's all. You haven't healed anything. In fact, quite the opposite. All you've done now is stop a process that the body needed to do. And you've also added insult to injury by poisoning it further. So now it's going to have to do more work in the long run to get rid of the poison and to go, well, now where were we? Where were we when we were trying to clean this up before she messed this shit up? Right? Pardon my French. Okay. And so I'm told, don't swear. It's bad. Swearing's bad. Well, I'm trying to be authentic. And sometimes in my authenticity, a swear word will come out. And I'm sorry, but that I'd rather be authentic to myself as much as I can than, tiptoe around offending someone. So that's important too, being in where you have to be, being your authentic self. Anyway, an aside. So this liver now, okay, is trying to do the job. And if you drug it, it will not. And other symptoms will eventually happen because it'll have backup systems. Say, okay, well, she won't let us have the snot. She won't let us have the mucus. Okay, how about what we'll do is we'll just make a bolus. We'll make a bolus, a ball of the waste. Let's just park it. I don't know. Let's just find a room that's not being used. And let's just put all that junk in there. We've got a junk drawer, put it in the junk drawer. And that will be a walled off area. And if the body cannot eventually get back to that walled off area and, do clean house, do spring cleaning, then that will either trigger another event in that season, that detox season, another trigger, another stress will say, whoa, we got to do this now because it's got cold. It got cold. There's a new change, or start eating different, or it's not getting vitamin D from the sun anymore. We better go through these symptoms again. And so all the things you suppressed, if you're lucky, will come out exactly the same symptoms as you suppressed in the past. We see this all the time. We see this all the time with the magic pill people, right? Especially with things like antibiotics and cortisol and stuff, right? Oh, magic pill stopped the expression. I'm happy and healthy, yay. And then what happens? A few months later, maybe not even, maybe a few weeks later, comes again. It's back. Oh, it's back. No, it's not. What's back? You mean your mechanism figured out how to overcome the roadblock that you put in the way? Yeah, that's what happened. And you're lucky. You're lucky you dodged one because it was able to overcome your stupidity and and usually it's worse as well because now you've got the extra poison to deal with. And if you're not lucky, if you keep doing that, you see that again, cortisone cream suppress the skin, suppress the natural flora from working and digesting waste and getting rid of it by killing them all off, which is your own endemic life that is being killed, then it gets worse and it can go and descend into other deeper organ tissues. And if the walled off areas cannot be cleansed, they will fester. And that's what you'll get as your infection, because now the microbes that are there to eat the waste and metabolize them and help you get the mess that you created out. It's like your little helpers coming over to clean your junk drawer, right? You just killed them. You came over to help you and you just killed them. Like got you, now I'm not infected anymore. No, again, you got that because the body's trying another way. And if that happens repeatedly, then what happens? Necrotic tissue will fester in the area. You will get fungal issues because that's a backup for the body if you've killed all your microbes. And also could be worse, like parasites come in now. It's like, yeah, some food here, let's eat that. And that can become cancer. That can become a tumor. Okay. So like I said, understand that this is a mechanism. These are bodily mechanisms of healing, and they have backup systems. And the backup systems will be used if you don't listen and you don't help it. That's how you get these disease states. Now, there's more to the story. Obviously, there's more to the story because emotions can play a role. Psychology can play a role. We're a one organism. So what you think, your thoughts become chemicals in the body. So there's a whole study of German new medicine that you can also relate disease states to mental states and emotional states. So it's not just about a physical toxin necessarily. It can also be a mental emotional toxin, but we'll reserve that. I've spoken of that a little bit, but we're going to just focus on physical poisons right now because we're talking about the thing, even though I think there's a lot of mental poisoning happening alongside it. You know what I'm saying? So here we are. Now we're supporting and allowing. That's the place we need to get to with the vitamin C and the magnesium and the glutathione support. So you can support your glutathione system, which is the natural antioxidant, which again, one day I'll do a terminology video. I'll explain some of these terminology that are these broad strokes of what they're talking about. Because then people just get on fads like, I need more antioxidants, I'm going to just eat all of them. It's not really the way, but good on you for trying. But when you're trying to upregulate a system, you want to support it. So that's why we're saying let's upregulate the glutathione systems. Now, a lot of people have talked about NAC, which is N-acetylcysteine. And what that does, it's a precursor to glutathione. You can take a glutathione supplement or you can take NAC, N-acetylcysteine, and that will support or move forward your natural liver detox mechanism. It will encourage the pathway. Okay, so you can take it. You can, NAC, by the way, also has a very helpful detox effect on the lungs, on the lung tissue. So you can actually take quite high doses, although not usually necessary. So if you're having respiratory issues, as well as obviously backup of the liver, which is why you have respiratory issues, is to take NAC, about 500, 600 milligrams a day to start. You can double that if you wish. So you can take it twice a day if you're in an active detox of those systems. And I like to take breaks of all of my things. I'll go for 2 or 3 weeks, take a day or two off, let my body regulate, let my body have different feedback loops so it doesn't get too cushy, on that one thing. It remembers how to store and make its own thing. So I like to give it little bits of breaks off of these supplements. And then you can do another round of it until you really start to feel better. And then you do what I call pulsing, where you just take it every so often to make sure you're not going into deficiency and that you're keeping on top of your regular detox. So NAC or N-acetylcysteine, if you're someone who is fine with taking capsules, you can utilize that. But it's a sulfur-based compound. And so what do we have as sulfur-based compounds? Well, we have DMSO, and DMSO also will increase your glutathione levels. Also, the derivative of DMSO called MSM, it's in a crystalline form. So MSM sulfur is also can be used to upregulate your glutathione system. And that as well as one. So if it's the salts, which the one I have is called Happy Body, 1 teaspoon twice a day, they're like a bitter crystal. And so I usually just put a teaspoon in my mouth and chase it with some water or juice to get it in. Because if you dissolve it in the water, it's yucky. And because it's sulfur, it's like eating, a garlic or an onion, which you can also, upregulate your onion and garlic intake to help your glutathione levels too. And in my book, I actually have a chapter on sulfur, sulfates, sulfites, and the difference between different chemistries of different kinds of sulfur. Because a lot of people say, well, I'm allergic to sulfur, but that's wrong. You aren't. You can't be. You'd be dead. Sulfur is a foundational, fundamental mineral of life. You can't be allergic to it, or you wouldn't be here to say I'm allergic to it. So you're either allergic to sulfites or sulfates or something from a drug. With an improper molecular bond, and that's the breaking of the molecular bond that causes the reaction in your body. It says, we don't like that. We don't want to deal with that. That's no good. Don't do that again. But sulfur, like a sulfur-rich compound like DMS or MSM, you just start slow. It will start your detox going along, always with magnesium. Always pair these things with magnesium so you don't have detox complications. And then work up to your doses and be steady on your doses. And MSM will help with skin, hair, nails, all kinds of expressions of the liver, which again, skin, hair, nails are expressions of the liver because it's what's putting out from the skin. And that's, again, a Chinese medicine understanding principle of what organ systems are connected. Okay, so you can use it. I have an article on yummy.doctor in my blog section called NAC is the Ticket, and it explains the detox process from the Jabberwocky and how that's a crucial or fundamental molecule to use to help yourself through your detox regime, whether you've taken it or not. It's helpful. But one thing I've also taught about a lot, and it's easier and even cheaper, is about coffee enemas and doing enemas regularly and how they help us and how to get, also get past some of your beliefs and judgments. Because the first thing someone who's never done one before will just go, ew, or I'm not doing that. Or like, that's the defense mechanism first will come forward. Like, oh, that's my bum hole. I'm not, or whatever. But once you get past that idea, which has been implanted, it's not really your own thought. You realize that a home enema kit is vital to have during these times for all kinds of treatments, self-treatments that you can do at home, that you can help yourself through some pretty harrowing health issues. If you are feeling symptoms, then running an enema, even a distilled water enema, can give you energy and help your bowels and help your liver out by just even simply eliminating the bowels and fasting the system to allow the liver, which also has to process all your food molecules, a rest, to give it a rest. So generally when you're trying to heal, you fast or limit food. So only high quality based nutrition like juicing or soups, things that are nourishing, but not overwhelming with just stuffing your face full of like wheat and dairy and meats and things that are just going to take enzymatic activity from the liver. You're trying to rest the system. You're trying to say, hey, yeah, you got this, but I'll stop making you do other stuff right now because we have this to deal with. And so the coffee enemas, the retention coffee enemas are not actually a colon cleanse, even though it will. The side effect is that it will clean out your colon and it will remove the waste so that the portal vein that connects through the liver into the large intestine, it's not congested and just trying to keep and make sure the stool is not implicating your health and reabsorbing, because if that you have stool sitting there, it's toxic. It's literally all of your waste coming out and it has to go and the body has to make sure it doesn't get reabsorbed, and the portal vein is part of that system. So if you clean out your colon, that's one less thing your body has to deal with. Okay. And so that's that's what I'm saying. Just doing a distilled enema, cleaning yourself, is one weight off the system. And then if you want the 2-for-1 price, you do the coffee enema because the coffee actually is helpful to remove the wastes that are accumulating in the liver by upregulating the glutathione production system. And it will do way more than a supplement. I mean, we're talking hundreds of percentage points more glutathione production by a simple coffee enema, 15-minute retention enema, than taking your supplements, and will get rid of all of that accumulatory waste in the inside. So imagine you have an organ that's responsible for all this blood and all this digestion and all these hormone productions and all this communication in the body, as also a functional endocrine gland. And so it's busy as can be. And now it has its own internal systems as well that it has to keep on top of. And so if you can think about it like that and say, well, how can I alleviate some of the work that it's doing so it can fix its own internal systems? I get people all the time, oh, my liver enzymes are high, my ALT, AST, whatever, it's all off the charts. What do I do? Well, you need to cleanse the liver. That's what you need to do. It's overworked. Its own internal system so overworked that it's breaking down. Okay, that's telling you something. So now for those people who have liver enzyme disorders and that sort of thing, now what you want to do is help the cells themselves function better. And what I suggest for that is an offshoot, something that I have on my website by Picana. It's a homeopathic spagyric liquid. It's a tincture. It's effectively kind of like a homeopathic tincture. They're ancient remedies, brilliant remedies, and they are intracellular. So when you use something, one of them is called apo-hepat, H-E-P-A-T, apohepat. When you use apohepat, which hepat is hepatic, which means liver, it will say to the intracellular matrix, oh my gosh, you guys are so overwhelmed. Give me your load. Here, we'll take it from you. We'll help your load come off your inside of your cells so that you can upregulate your processes properly. And I've had people reverse fatty liver, all kinds of enzyme disabilities in their liver by just using magnesium and apohepat alone. That's it. That's all they did, and stop poisoning themselves with a lot of foods and change their food, of course, is part of this. But just that alone helped reverse their fatty liver condition. So I would suggest that. And usually when I suggest the Picana, I would go after also one called ToxX, T-O-X-E-X, ToxX. That one will upregulate the removal waste systems. So you can do that in conjunction. 15 drops, 3 times a day in a glass of water. You can do all of the drops together in the same water. I usually suggest no more than 3 Picana products at a time, because you don't really want to overwhelm everything. You want to direct the body and say, hey, can you just heal these systems right now? That'd be great. So it's a very gentle detox that won't overwhelm you. It's not like an extracellular detox, which can be, you can feel it. You might have symptoms of detox. You might feel nauseous or tired or have, a skin rash. And that's when you're not detoxing properly. You should never really ultimately have those symptoms. If you have enough magnesium, you won't, okay? Or if you're assimilating it properly as well. So there's more to the story. Obviously, there's the digestion. That's why I like the transdermal, because you bypass that. Then there's the assimilation of it in the body. And then there's the delivery method to the end user. So there's a few things that can go awry in different metabolic situations. And that also will depend on some of the other admixtures of what's going on, in that person's health. But for the most part, you will not have complications like that if you have ample magnesium and you work on those systems first. You work on cleaning and cleansing the liver first, because that's your master gland for all of this work. Okay, so that the other one I want to mention that's really important, that's really underappreciated, and I don't think I've done a very specific topic video on tissue salts before. I've mentioned them in Crow Radio and other interviews and stuff, but tissue salts are very, very important to make sure you're not in a mineral deficiency. So you can take what's called melange, which is all 12 biochemical tissue salts. They're intracellular. They've been well studied by, first was Dr. Schussler, who identified all of these intracellular, fundamental, biochemical, inorganic salts. I'm going to do a little video on what inorganic versus organic means. That you need both in the body. Don't be confused by the wording. But these salts are basically your electrical communication of the intracellular matrix that will ensure the fundamental function of the cell. So it doesn't need to recycle all these cells and make new cells. And so you can upregulate your mitochondria or upregulate your cell structures using proper biochemical tissue salts. And there's different ones for different subtypes. So you can read all about the different 12, what they're for, how to apply them, and then you can gravitate off. You can take the melange and say, you have a skin issue, you want to use silica, or you have a bone issue, you want to use mag phos, or these sorts of things. So it's something really I suggest you learn a little bit about, because it's easy, they're cheap enough, and they're very subtle and gentle. You can give them to children, even use them in babies, animals. So it's a well-rounded approach if you're just trying to raise vitality gently in someone who's ailing or someone who's just trying to maintain health. So that for your intracellular supports and your mineral supports of your body. Okay, so now you've got your vitamin C, your magnesium. You might have one of your glutathione supports, whatever works for you for now. And right there, you've got a pretty good triad of support for your liver to upregulate and get rid of poisons and metals and questionable DNA and questionable cells from other things and beings that should not be in your body, that should never have bypassed any of your enteric system that would say, whoa, that's not allowed in here. If you, with an injection, you bypass all of these systems that would decide whether it's good or not for you. And, you know, even I know they have ways of doing the thing intranasally. It's a different, at least the body can go, do we want this? Do we not want this? A little more than bypassing, going right into the muscle, which will then eventually leak into the bloodstream. That's an alarm system. You know, Dr. Andrew Molden, if you want to study his work, he knew that every single one of these things caused microstrokes in the brain and blood clotting disorders and nervous system reactions because of the anoxia, or the cutoff of oxygen to because of the white blood cell reactionary effect. It would actually create stagnation in the blood vessels, which then wouldn't feed your nervous system. And you know, everyone was having harm from every single one of them produces harm. And that's what he proved with MRIs and evidence and it was an MD as well, you know, and he was ridiculed and shunned. And I mean, you present with solid, sound science, and this is what happens in a cult. You're not allowed in the cult, right? Oh, solid, sound science that goes against what we're doing. You're a heretic, you're name calling, bad argument tactics, ad hominem attacks, everything we've been seeing, censorship, you know, personal attacks, like even death threats, like it can get, or here you can't have your license anymore. You can't have the license in this cult anymore because you're not doing what we said. And that's the problem. That's what we're facing today. And that's what we're starting to see en masse, not just those of us who have seen it through it all the way from the beginning, but others are starting to see this is not health. This is a scam. This is suppression. This is an illusion. This is a weird ideology that came from a demonic idea of disease and not science. So, okay, so now, so you're working on your liver. Maybe you're even doing coffee enemas. I mean, if you got that, you're way on your way to good detox. I would also think about doing something called castor oil packs, because again, you want to help the liver to rid itself of its toxins internally as well as externally. And castor oil, I have quite a few articles on my Yummy.Doctor blog about how to do it properly, when to do it, when not to do it. And it's very simple, easy purgative. Maybe we are in purgatory. Maybe that's what this is. Because I'm trying to figure out this reality. Maybe that's, we're in some sort of midline holding tank or something. Because what a weird existence. Anyway, so it's a purgative, and that purgative is eliminatory. So it gets rid of extra waste and upregulates the system gently. And so you do about 20 minutes with a hot water bottle over top of the castor oil. You can reuse the packs quite a bit as well. And there's lots of YouTube videos and stuff on how to do castor oil packs. So you can just autodidact to that and go figure out how to do it. And help all your organ systems. You can do it for your whole gut, your whole abdomen can be done. You can do it for your kidneys as well. You can do it over damaged joints or painful joints. It helps to redissolve a lot of the calcifications and the wastes sitting in the joints and put them back into solution. If you are doing that, make sure you're drinking plenty of water. There's all kinds of waters. The waters I support for detox are pure if it is H2O, if we're not lied to about all that. But if it's H2O, it's just pure water, then distilled or RO water is fine. For those types of waters that have gone through processing, vortex, the water is living, has a living vibration or electricity to it. So I will take that and I'll put it in a long jug, and I'll take a wooden spoon and I'll spin it. I'll just vortex it and sort of re-enliven it before I drink it. So that's just a little trick you can do just to, get the electricity between the molecules to lighten up again. Or spring water, fresh spring water from a local spring. I'm blessed to have quite a few around me. So I choose all kinds of different waters. Well water, be careful with, as it usually has a certain type of inorganic mineral that is hard for us to assimilate unless we have our very handy dandy microbes operating in fine style inside our guts, which most people do not. So if you have taken any antibiotics in your life, you probably have a damaged gut microbiotic system, and you cannot digest those inorganic minerals from your well water very well. And that leads to things like arthritis and Alzheimer's, and all kinds of deposits can happen. So I'm on a well in my new house, and I have an RO filtration system for that to filter out the heavy particulates. But I can handle a little bit of it because I worked on my gut for my whole life, because that was what they damaged right out of the gate in my existence. And I had to learn how to heal myself, as happens with a lot of, eclectic practitioners who've had to learn through their own disease states how to heal, and using fermented foods as well to get that back properly. Yes, we can talk about MMS. I support and promote MMS, of course. It's basically a molecule by which it will upregulate your detoxification pathways, but also will help with cellular communication through an electrical addition. So you can use all kinds of different nervous system or electrical, chemical supports, to increase cellular communication. So if your body's not talking to itself, right? If your head doesn't know what the foot's doing, then your signaling pathways are clogged or not working properly. And MMS will dislodge or allow for the electrical communication to happen again. So the body will deal with the problem. So it'll deal with tumors, and will deal with so almost any condition, right? That's why MMS is called the miracle mineral solution, because it helps the body upregulates its communication systems. Once you do that, anything can heal. Now can communicate. I've done a couple videos on urine therapy for those who are squeamish. I know. But there's many books and many incredible scientific knowledge that comes about what our urine is and what our kidneys do, which again, everything's a lie. Everything they told us is a lie. And that as well will upregulate cellular communication. And that's why it's sort of like an all heal approach to use it, because not only is it giving you plasma back in the stem cells that help to regenerate your body and keep it youthful as well, by the way, but also and hormone balancing, because it has like small, like a homeopathic dose of your metabolic imprint that's feeding back into your body and telling you what's happening. But it also will upregulate the cellular communication and the electrical aspect of the body, so that it can figure out what all parts are doing, and then upregulate the system. So again, when you do it simpler and you listen to nature's wisdom, you get down to fundamental foundational principles that you can apply again and again in all kinds of situations, instead of getting caught up in the namings of diseases and the symptomatology and is this, is that, is this, is that. You go, well, I know I need to detox. I know my liver needs to be better. I know I need to do some enemas, and I know I need to make sure my cellular communication is upregulated, and I probably need to fast, and I probably need to stop poisoning myself, and I probably need to rest more, and these sorts of things. These are going to be the behaviors that you do every single time that you're not feeling well, right? It's the body working, and you're going to help it work, and you're going to help it along, rather than the opposite, say, oh, it has to go away. I have to make it magically go away. I just want it to go away. So a child does. A child will hide its eyes, and then the world goes away, and they think that's legit, that's gone, and they won't have to deal with it anymore. But that's an illusion. It's not real, right? So an adult says, I'm going to take responsibility for my actions, and I'm going to start to make different changes. And it's going to be hard at first, but there are rewards for it, because I'll be alive and I'll be healthy, and I won't be in the midst of a cartel that just wants to push its drugs down my throat and take away my freedoms and worse, and force me into their death cult. So you just can say no. You can walk away. You have options, right? Common sense. Yeah. Well, I don't think anything's common anymore, like sense. So now you've dealt with some of those aspects. Now we need to think about hormones, because hormones, again, part of the liver system, are part of your communication network. So where's your fat soluble vitamins at? Where's your A, D, E, and K? vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K. I usually suggest vitamin A from beta carotene because the precursor, so you're not going to overload your system. Vitamin D, it's not rat poison. Okay. Again, see how they do that? See how they give you these conflicting stories on nutrients and on foods, and then you don't know what to believe, right? So, yeah, vitamin D, there's different derivatives, obviously, but I make sure I'm getting vitamin D at least every other day. And if it's sunny, I'm out in that. And I'm getting my, daily allotment of vitamin D production through my skin. And there are things that block that, like some of the lotions and some of the things people put on their skin also will block that production of vitamin D, like even some sunscreens. So make sure you're getting enough vitamin D. If you're not vegan or certain type of vegetarian, you can have cod liver oil. And cod liver oil is usually fortified with vitamin A and D, so you can sort of get all in one. And your omega-3s are also going to help you if you do have blood issues, like clotting issues, as an anti-inflammatory, but also as almost like a lubricant idea of making sure your fat around your membranes are ample and are stronger. So your cells are stronger, they're more resilient, and you'll have less damage in the long run. And then, of course, less damage, less metabolic waste, less backlog to the liver system trying to keep up with all the work. And it'll get to the systems you want as well. And skin, hair, nails all benefit from that, which should tell you something right there about the liver. Then we have the vitamin E levels, which you can, get through certain foods, obviously, but if not, then you can just take it as occasional supplement. I like the mixed tocopherol, so you have all of the display of molecules of that ilk to support your tissues and the strength of your tissues. And vitamin K, I mean, there's two kinds. There's vitamin K1, vitamin K2. It's the K2 that we're really deficient in. You can get it in natto. You can get it in certain fermented products. But usually I have a supplement A, D, E, and K. It's all the four together. And I just take a couple of drops, here and there to make sure I have enough. But if you don't have enough K2, then your body does not properly manage calcium, and you can get calcium deposits in the wrong places rather than, the bone, which is actually a living tissue. It's not set. It's a living tissue, your teeth as well. And they will recycle. It's always breaking down the matrix, the bone matrix, and rebuilding the bone matrix. And so you need to have enough calcium delivery to the bone matrix for the calcium to be used in the microcrystalline structure that's happening inside all of your bones. And you also happen to need lots of magnesium for that process as well. And as well enough boron to make the bones actually strong. And I have an article about borax, how you get boron from borax, or how you can just take a boron supplement, which also, by the way, helps the body balance out against parasites and electromagnetic fields and helps upregulate your detox system. So again, look into things like boron, which as a trace mineral that we're very deficient in. There's quite a few of those. Selenium is another one. If anyone has cancer, if they're not taking selenium, that could be it. That could be why they can't detox that mass in the junk drawer. Okay, it's because they just don't have enough of the nutrients to communicate and say, hey, well, can you get the junk drawer? Yeah, let's get the junk drawer. Let's get it out. So selenium deficiency can be that's cancer. Can also be other like B vitamin deficiencies can be. That's all it is. So if you're stressed, if you're having a lot of stress, I do suggest a general B multi. This is sort of an aside, but it will help your adrenals function better, your cortisol, adrenaline levels, all of these sorts of hormones that have to go through the adrenal system, which adrenal, it's on top of your kidneys. Taking a B multi with food in the morning once a day, about a 50 milligram spread, including your B12 and your folate, not folic acid, but folate, is very valuable to your stress levels. And again, when you're stressed and you create more molecules of stress, your body has to detox molecules of stress, same idea. You're going to get rid of some of the extra poisons or metabolic waste that your body has to constantly deal with by getting hold of your stress. So stress management is always going to be part of a healing protocol. So those people who just want to detox, just want to know this stuff, this is for you as well. This is for people who have been poisoned as well, to help their body get somewhat over it. The DNA damage aside, this will at least keep your body from accumulating all of the wastes. The other part that needs to be addressed and possibly also gone after specifically, depending on you, are the metals that are involved. Not only are we inundated with metal toxins through our food and water and air sources and tech sources, but also through, the jabby Joe. And that is, it's such a fraud, because they actually can't remove the adjuvants from these things because they say they wouldn't work. And it's funny because they won't work because the body needs to be reactive and inflammatory to the thing to produce antibodies. And all antibodies are is a removal of waste delivery system for the blood. And it actually, antibodies your own pleomorphic somatid cells produce. So meaning that antibodies change shape depending on their need. And this is, of course, in the scientism cult, they refuse to talk about entire cell lineages in our body, like somatids. They will not address the fact that their microscopes are damaging tissue samples and damaging blood. And they're never qualifying the fact that these microorganisms inside of us are endemic and also pleomorphic. So if one microorganism changes shape depending on the medium in which it is placed, so tell me please how you are identifying, characterizing, isolating, and saying that thing causes said disease when you've never proven that that thing that came out of that living blood is the same exact thing that you had to put under, degrees of heat through microscopes, through staining techniques, through agar, and all of these other things. That's not science. Science would say, let's look at the living blood and let's see what's happening. And let's make sure that the thing we take out of living blood that we now have are altering by our behaviors is not altered to the point where it's something altogether else. So right there, the germ theory is 100% garbage. Just from that alone, it is garbage. When you have a microorganism that can change from a rod to a cone to a sphere, a spheroid, to multiple cocci, when it can do that, depending on the medium in which it is placed, then you cannot create said shot for said disease. It would never happen. It could never happen. It would change its shape depending on the medium. And they have to put the adjuvants, which are the metals of the poisons, in, because that is what makes your body go, oh my God, it's super poison. We better change our pleomorphic cells, our somatids or our microzyma, to go and put it in our little Y or X shaped thing and go and grab that waste and get it the heck out of Dodge. So the only time you will find an antibody in a body is when you're poisoned. It's only when you're sick, meaning it's only when you're having a thing. And they need titers to prove that you have protection, right? So they need you to be poisoned. So when you're poisoned properly by the adjuvants and you create the titer, then they say you're protected. This is how shammy and scammy this so-called science is. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and it can be easily disproven. So this is why they've propped it up with such a cartel of misinformation and propaganda. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to all of mankind. We are smarter than this, and we know this. There are many, and I will talk tomorrow with Carmen. I will quote many doctors, many good doctors who knew medicine and health, who were not co-opted into the death cult. And they have said many times over, this is not how the body works, folks. These things are not contagious. These things are not infectious. This is your own body doing a work, doing a job, cleaning the system, healing the system. Stop killing. We have to stop destroying ourselves. Quit with the war analogies. That's not how the body works. The body's not a war zone. When they invented the immune system and immunology, the sad sack story of how the war that goes on your body against invaders, it's a lie. It's not how it works at all. So the same thing with the virology. It's a scam science. I feel sorry for anyone who's self-proclaimed virologists or immunologists. they even some of the genetic stuff, their whole entire careers are based on a hoax, on a lie, on a scam. And it's sad and it's hard. It's hard to realize that you've been misled so severely. You can make all the fluffy science and all the papers you want. It doesn't matter. When your foundation is based on a lie, all of the rest of the scientism will just go back and prove the same lie. And it'll be valid to the lie, but it's not valid to the truth. And then the foundation, once it's pulled out, all that science is gone. It's garbage. Okay, so understand. So MMS, I actually have it in my private collection. So if you need it, you can utilize it. It's also in a nebulizer, and everyone who has respiratory challenges at all should invest in a good nebulizer. Okay, a nebulizer can take DMSO, MMS, colloidal silver, or ionic silver. Can take your own urine. You can actually nebulize your own urine. Yeah, your first morning clean catch. You can nebulize hydrogen peroxide properly diluted. There's all sorts of treatments. You can there's a free book online called The 1 Minute Miracle or The 1 Minute Cure. It's about how to use hydrogen peroxide to detox your system and to support your blood. So that alone, you don't have a lot of money, you can't afford supplements or even an enema bag. You could read that book and you can start to use hydrogen peroxide in your water, and it has to be food grade, and do it properly and help your body detox and heal. It is easy. This is why they made it such a multi-trillion-dollar industry. They made it so convoluted and complex. They don't want you back to your simple roots, and that you can go outside and pick your raspberry leaf off the lawn and your plantain leaf and make a tea and give yourself micronutrients and health benefits from that. They wouldn't want you to do that. How are they going to profit off you and use you if you don't fall for the scam? So I had a video a while ago called something like, are you done being used and abused, or would you like to stop being used or abused? Something about used or abused. Can't remember the title. That you might want to watch that. I talk about how the system uses you and pulls from you and steals from you. Do you like that? Do you want to be used? Do you want to be stolen from your whole life? That I don't think that's the divine plan for your life. I just don't, So you have to question that. Question everything. Question everything. Okay. So let me just go down to, so back to metals quickly. So metals, they're tricky. They sometimes are so pro-inflammatory and so considered toxic that the body will wall them off immediately. They will try to get rid of as much as possible through the skin or maybe through the hair. But a lot of it gets tucked away, even in fat cells. So we need to be a little more proactive to remove metals from the body. And one of the ways we can do it is using certain types of clay. For example, bentonite clay, diatomaceous earth. Diatomaceous is really cheap. I sell it for I think 13 or 14 bucks on my website for a huge bag of it. And you just have to be careful because it can dehydrate you a little bit, being a clay and being a water grabber. So make sure you're hydrating yourself properly. And it's helpful for children who maybe have pinworms. It gets rid of pinworms in children. For a child above the age of 3, it's 1 teaspoon a day for 5 to 7 days on. And then you take a break 5 to 7 days, and then you do it again for the eggs if you're doing parasites or worms. But you can do it again also if you're grabbing metals like aluminum. So the lighter, it's actually not a heavy metal. We lump in aluminum as a heavy metal. So fine, but it's not. It's actually a very light metal. And the things that are light in our bodies tend to rise up in us and get into the brain and get into the glands and to the upper head and neck area. And so you can do a number of things with different clays that are aluminosilicates. So an aluminosilicate already has a partial aluminum attached to a silica, and it seeks another aluminum. It wants to, in order to have a stable octet or a stable chemistry, it's seeking aluminum. So you take it so that it finds that aluminum, wants it, grabs it, and the body now sees this as a waste product and eliminates the whole kit and caboodle from the body. So that's like a sponge you're taking essentially to get rid of aluminum. Bentonite clay or zeolite clay will grab other metals as well, lead, cadmium, mercury, these sorts of things, some of the heavier metals, which tend to descend in us or settle into joints or go into the feet and leg area. because they're heavy, they settle. And you can use as well the MMS, by the way, tends to remove metals nicely, and DMSO also assists with the removal of metals. So there are certain compounds that have an attraction for them that help the upregulation of the body to identify them as ways to change the volatility of the compound. So it is now considered amicable or cooperative of the body to remove it safely, because it will not remove something unless it is either has to go, absolutely 100% has to go to the point where it'll damage tissue. That's your so-called autoimmune diseases for the most part. Those autoimmune diseases are the body going, there is a toxin in here in this tissue that must go no matter what, at all costs. Is too damaging to be here. So we will take the tissue down with it. We will destroy the tissue with it to get this out. And there are also signaling problems that can happen in autoimmune conditions where the body is being is confused in its signaling, and it is not able to understand what it is trying to get rid of. It just has the signal that something is wrong, and it needs to get rid of the tissue and remake the tissue as much as possible. So all of those stories about what's happening with immune is all how to be reframed, because it's all related to the germ theory fraud. And so we have to, I don't even like to use this. I've used the words because for communication issues, but I don't like the words because it's not accurate. Every component and compartment of your body is self versus non-self identifier. It will always say, this belongs here, this doesn't belong here. That's not an immune system. You can't take an anatomy or have a cadaver and open up and go, oh, there it is. There's the whole immune system. No, it's not like a circulatory system or the liver hepatic system. It's every part of your body, and most of it's microbes. Most of your functional, self versus not self is related to the microbes that your body is using to know what needs to be there or not, or what vitamins need to be made or not, or all of those sort of things. It's an incredibly beautiful, brilliant body that if we just didn't meddle with it, would work perfectly. And what happens? The priests, the high priests, the medics, right at the beginning of life, they mess with it. They make sure they do the damage, right? Even at conception through the pregnancy, they mess with it. And then you have all these problems now, and then you need them forever. It's like the narcissist that keeps abusing its victim and blaming the victim that it's their own doing, and then saying, but you still need me, and coming back for more punishment. It's the same thing. So we have to stop letting them meddle with the elegant system of life, and it will work perfectly as designed. So less is more when it comes to these charlatans. Okay. And I know a lot of people are like, I like my doctor. He's really nice. I don't know. Nice has nothing to do with indoctrination. Nice has absolutely zilch to do with brainwashing. None. They can be nice as pie. Brainwashing is brainwashing. They will behave the way they are programmed to behave, despite how nicely they do it to you. So, metal removal is important. And also you can do saunas. Infrared saunas will help metals come out through the skin. And as well, Dr. Robert Kassar talked about a skin healing solution protocol, and I adapted that. I make a powder combination on my website, Yum Naturals, and it is called Vodka Skin Healing Solution. And you have to buy a bottle of vodka and take some off the top. Don't drink it. Make a tincture with it or something. And you can put the powder in it, shake it up. It's got activated charcoal in it, which is black, which you might want to also use, by the way, in general, to help detoxify and grab waste from the body. Activated charcoal. It would be 1 capsule a day. Again, you have to take breaks because it can dehydrate you. That would be something if you've taken the jabby to get on the activated charcoal pretty quick. And also, by the way, it can cause constipation. That's why you have to be careful. So the skin healing solution, you take a rag, something that you don't care about anymore because it'll stain. In the shower, you rinse off and then you shake it, pour it in the rag, and you scrub in a circular motion, starting with legs and arms towards the center, towards the heart, always everything toward the heart. And it, first of all, kills mites, which is if people have relentless itch, a lot of it is mites. It was a really bad year for mites, actually. I had a lot of cases of mites. And one vodka healing solution, and it's gone. They're done. They're dead. And that will slough off the dead skin cells through that exfoliation process. It will open up the pores of the skin. It will allow the skin to have its two-way breathability upregulated. And so the body will be more readily promoting the removal of metals through the skin. So keeping the skin breathing is important. And that's also why I make a skincare line that is 100% natural that will not clog your pores, because you don't need your pores clogged. We don't need that on top of everything else. So, I mean, I'm 47 years old, and I have learned through eating well and, detoxing properly and all of these methods and proper skincare to not look how a lot of people who are 47 look, which is really old. So you can keep yourself young this way too. If you need a motivational something, if you want to be slim or you want to be a certain way, then okay, use whatever you need as your motivation to do the work, because it pays off in more than just you feeling better. You're going to look better as well. And then that catches, right? You get more self-confidence, and then you feel more empowered, and then on and on. You catch a run on that. So, the metals, now the DNA damage, DMSO, like I said, can prevent DNA damage. It can heal a little bit of it, depending. But I did a video with Sol Luckman. If you want to refer to that, I mentioned a lot because of all the modalities there are available to heal DNA. The modalities that will work for actual DNA recovery will be frequency based, will be either a sound therapy, vibrational therapy of some aspect to encourage the renewal of that material. So you can listen to that video where he talks about his regenetics method. So it's a technique. Or you can also look up things like Rife machines or other frequency machines, and that can help you to see how much your body is going to remember its blueprint from its foundations or a stem cell foundation, and regenerate the intracellular direction, which is the protein direction of the body, to make proper protein folding. But the real brain of the cell is the membrane. That's epigenetics. And the study of epigenetics, I really thought when I first, read Bruce Lipton's work and Candace Pert's work and all this stuff that I was reading about the terrain and isopathy, meaning like the body's own lineages and all of this stuff, I really thought at this point in my career and at this point in just mankind's life, we would be on top of it. We'd be like, oh my gosh, we were wrong. The DNA isn't everything. It's also like the membrane or the signaling of the cell is also really, the signaling and the switching is what really sends a signal back to the DNA to go on or off. So it's the cell membrane that directs the DNA, not the other way around. And that means whatever solution it's in will change those switches and those signals. Whoa, when I learned that, I'm like, that is majorly empowering. I can't wait for the real science, the scientific revolution to come out from this knowledge. And where are we with it? Nowhere. Like, it's more ignorant. It's worse. I never would have thought it back then, with all the seeking and reading and learning and everything that I did and all the discoveries that I made when I was in naturopathic college and beyond. I foresaw a very different future for us. So I'm quite dismayed that we've seemed to take lots of steps backwards rather than forwards. However, in saying that, I feel like in part, it has to be like this in a weird way, because we don't tend to do anything nice and easy. We tend to like to suffer and use pain to motivate us. And I guess this is being the great reveal. We're seeing now behind the curtain what's been going on for a long time, generations and generations and generations of time. And so I suppose it has to be as messy as it is and get worse before it gets better. I'm going to hope for that right now. That's where I'm at. I'm not banking on it per se. I'm hoping for it while I make other plans in contingency. So the other one I wanted to mention, if you are going through, a cleansing or a healing, is colloidal silver or ionic silver. Again, it will upregulate your blood. It will cleanse the blood. It will balance out the cellular communication because you're adding in an electrical component. And for if you start to get a sore throat or anything, you can upregulate your gentle detox by ingesting 1 ounce for an adult, 1 ounce twice a day. I made it for years. I've ingested it for probably close to 15 years now. I'm not gray. If the agencies cared about you and your health, why would they fake stories about colloidal silver and tell you to fear it? Something so elegant and simple and easy to make at home for pennies, they want you to think is fraud. Red flags all over town, guys. Okay. So, yes, it means you have to do the work. Yes, it means you have to do the difficult stuff of the uncomfortableness of being wrong, and also have of the anger that comes up of being used for so long. All part of the healing. And if you don't want to, if you'd rather stay in the illusions, it's none of my business. It's none of my business. You can use all the illusions you need as a crutch, but it means you are on a crutch. You are walking around with a walking stick, so your illusions are a crutch. Sometimes you break your leg and you need a crutch. I understand the need. The crutch, however, is meant to be discarded once you have healed from the situation. Not only to be continually used, but to be gems put on it and polished every day and, put in a predominant place in your house and worshiped and all of that. So it's a crutch, and it's okay to use an illusion to get through something that you need to get through, but it's not meant to be with you forever. You're not meant to be stuck on your crutch. So the healing is throwing away the crutch and standing on your own 2 feet, taking matters into your own hands, and forgiving yourself, forgiving others, having patience, tolerance, kindness, groundedness, changing your lifestyle, making better decisions, different decisions, and realizing that all this has been a lie, that this entire fabricated culture has been surrounding you as a paddock and not as a tool for your awakening or for your best you. And so the sooner you realize this, the better for not only you, but the better for all. And that's the true virtue right there. No more signaling needed. You just do it, be it, live it, and everyone benefits. So I support you in that. I thank you for joining me today for this talk. I'm glad I got to spend these 2 hours with you. And I appreciate all of you for all the efforts you're trying to do in your own life and all the awakening you're trying to do with your loved ones. And despite my research work efforts and things that I present, please try to be kind when you are also, even those who proclaim to be awake, are presented with alternative information that you haven't heard of before that challenges your current belief systems. And welcome the identification of your own limitations, own them, and traverse them so that you can also take the next step in your own evolution and enlightenment. Because I am here to present all of the knowledge that I've been able to acquire and the knowledge I continue to acquire. And it's not an easy place to be. Trust me. So I am doing all that I can do. And I expect that we all are going to work harder at trying to be patient as we change and grow and heal and accept and integrate what's truth while we sort out the lies, wrap them up in a garbage bag, and take them to the curb. And I wish you well on that journey. ADV here, Amanda. Dare I say my last name? Maybe I won't. Why I use my acronym is because of the censorship. So there it is. Be well, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.